Okay, so today I'm going to demonstrate how to make a restorable system image. This is a good thing to do anytime you get a brand new system or you get to a point where you have everything functional. In the case that you ever hit a hardware failure or just disaster strikes, and you can reload the exact system image with everything still licensed onto a new hard drive. It really decreases downtime. So today what we'll be using is this USB thumb drive, which has a program called Clonezilla on it, and we'll be using an external hard drive to store the image. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and insert the bootable media. Now this could be interesting. This is the first time I've done this on a system that only has one full form factor USB drive. So in theory, Clonezilla should boot into the memory, and then we will swap it out and put our storage device on. But let's just see what happens. All right, so let's restart. And we're going to want to boot with that media. So depending on what manufacturer system you have, know what your boot key is going to be. For this, it's going to be F12. So I'm going to hit F12. Now I get my two boot options. I've got Windows Boot Manager, which will just bring up Windows, or we can use this one right here, which will bring up Clonezilla. So I will select that. And we get some options here. The font is currently small, but we will boot Clonezilla Live into the RAM with the large font. So let's give that a shot. All right, so at this point, it's going to run a bunch of systems checks. I've never had too many issues here. Sometimes you'll read some odd lines. It's effectively booting somewhat of a Linux build. So sometimes you'll see some different things from one system to another depending on the configuration. But I've never seen that affect the functionality or the ability to restore an image that you take. So looks like we've got about 6 seconds before we get to our splash screen. Or maybe just a little bit more. All right, we're getting closer. All right. Now, due to the colors of this, I'll stay on some screens a little bit longer. The contrast sometimes the camera doesn't like. So right now it does remain in small font, but this is the initial screen when you launch Clonezilla. And it's just going to ask you to select the language that you want to operate in. So we're going to select English. And then it's going to ask, do you want to change the keyboard layout? We don't want to change it, so we will select Keep. And now we end up with big font. So this is where Clonezilla effectively starts. So we're going to start Clonezilla, excuse me. Okay, so this is kind of where you start with what you want to do. So since we're going to take an image of this machine, we want to do device image, which is this very first option. There's some other options here, but more often than not, you're going to do device image. And you can do this over a network. You can do this over a variety of different methods. But we're doing a local device, so something that's local to the machine. Okay, so saying if you want to use a USB device as a Clonezilla image repository, please insert it now. So we're going to pull the Clonezilla bootable media out, and we're going to insert our external hard drive. I'll give that a second. All right, and we'll click enter. Now what it's doing is it's looking to see everything that's plugged into the machine. So I can see that this NVMe drive, that's the internal memory or the internal storage, of this machine. So that's where my OS, that's where it's loaded up. That's where all my files and everything are amongst multiple partitions of one drive. And I also see that this Easy Store, this Western Digital Easy Store, which is the external drive, is being detected as well. So as long as we can see both of those, we're good to proceed. So Control C. Now it's going to look at the local device, and it's going to say, okay, how many partitions do we have here? What else here? And what we're doing right now is we're selecting a place to mount a device as a home image repository. So we don't want to do that on our onboard storage on the machine. We want to do that on our external storage. So I've scrolled down to our Easy Store, and I'll select that. And it says, choose if you want to check and repair the file system before mounting the image repository. We can skip that for now. And what this is displaying is it's pretty much the home directory of everything that's currently on this drive. So I have a bunch of different images and software that I've had to use in the past. So instead of placing it within a folder, I'm just going to click Done, and it'll place it in this home folder. Now, if you get really good at this, you can go into expert mode. I think it's just as easy to use and effective in beginner mode than it is in expert. It's a lot easier to mess things up in expert if you don't know what you're doing. So we'll stay in beginner mode. Okay, so if we had already taken a disk image and we needed to apply that to a new hard drive we had just installed from my previous hard drive failure, we could go to Restore Disk. But since we're taking our initial image or secondary image, whatever you want to call it, we're doing Save Disk. And here you would just name it whatever you want to. We'll call this our artifact image. Okay, so it's saying we're going to choose the local disk as the source. So the local disk is our local NVMe storage. So that's okay. Compression, we can go with the default. We will skip checking and repairing source file system just for time's sake. We will let it check the saved image when it's completed to ensure that it is restorable. Here it asks if you want to encrypt the image. This might be a good thing if you're having, if you have sensitive data in there, or if maybe you have a baseline image for your enterprise. This would be a good thing to do just to not have it tampered with. But for now, we'll not encrypt the image. And here it's asking, what do you want to do after everything is done? So once we've copied the image over and verify that it's restorable, what action do you want it to perform? I like to leave it on choose just so I can see that it's already got to the end of its process. I can read the last few lines and see that everything went all right, instead of coming back to a machine that's either rebooted or powered off. So we'll click choose, and it's going to want you to press enter to continue. So it's double checking. It says, okay, we found all the partitions that we're looking for. And then down in the yellow, it's just kind of reiterating everything that we've already set up and gone through. And it's asking, do you want to continue? And we are saying yes. So Y, enter. So now we're at the point where Clonezilla is doing a zeros and ones level copy of our drives and partitions, to where if something were to happen, we can just do an easy restore onto a different hard drive or different form factor hard drive, just really helping us out. So we'll let this run, and we'll come back and we'll just boot up and double check that it saved the way it should, and then we should be go. But for time's sake, I'm going to let this go till it's done, and then I'll kick the video back on. All right, our system has been successfully cloned, and we can read across this particular screen here that the image was checked and is restorable. And it even goes by partition just to say each is restorable. At this point, we're done with taking the image. We will power off. And we'll let the system come back up, and we'll take a peek at what's on the hard drive and see if our artifact image is in fact where it's supposed to be. Power on. Okay, let's look here. We have one image, and there it is, our artifact image. And we'll take a look at the properties. It's about 142 gigabytes. So with the same software, we could go through and do the image restore function and write this to a new drive and have this exact system back in functioning order.